All right, folks, Kenny Smith, Total Force Holdings. We are today going to talk about, I shot this video last week, actually a week ago today, and apparently the audio crapped out halfway through. So we're going to try this again. But we're going to start with really what is the original modern smokeless centerfire rifle cartridge, and that's the 8x50 Lebel. You have to understand, throughout the 1800s, black powder rifles were the norm. That's all we had. That's all anybody had. So when you fired a black powder rifle, you get this huge cloud of smoke. So it's very, very hard to fire from a concealed position. You might get one shot off, maybe two if you're fast with it, before you need to relocate. Otherwise, your position has been disclosed, right, by your smoke signature. And that's not a good thing when people decide they want to shoot back. Further, if you look at the line-based infantry tactics at the time, even to include what became trench warfare in World War I, you see these, every rifle is firing, putting out a big plume of smoke, so it makes it very hard to see your target, hence the phrase fog of war. So the French come up with a powder. It was nitrocellulose base. It was a Frenchman by the name of Paul Viel. He called it Poudre B. It produced dramatically less smoke. So now all of a sudden you can fire your weapon from a concealed position without a big smoke cloud tracing back to you. And more importantly, for modern evolution at least, it allowed you to develop great velocities compared to black powder. So the black powder cartridge, you're limited to the combustion rate of black powder. Whereas with the nitrocellulose-based stuff, you can play with it and you can get really, really hot stuff. So the higher velocity allowed tremendously longer ranges. And you know what? If you drive that small bullet fast enough, it's going to hit pretty hard. So the first round they come up with was called Ballet M. It was a 232 grain copper jacketed lead flat nose wad cutter. Later on, to the tune of 1898, a new round called Ballet D was developed. This had a Spitzer point and a boat tail. So this is really the first of our modern centerfire rifle cartridges. But the rifle design for this cartridge, the model 1886 Lebel, had a tubular magazine. So a pointed cartridge nose on a primer made for a chain fire waiting to happen, either under recoil or just dropping the weapon. So the French got smart and they did like an O-ring crimp around the primer so that the bullet nose actually sat in that instead of touching the primer, so you weren't going to get a chain fire kind of thing. It was really smart if you ask me. That further developed into the Ballet N and Ballet T, which was a tracer, Ballet P, which was armor piercing. It continually kept evolving, but the Ballet N was fairly common for a really long time with this cartridge, and it pushed 231 grain projectile at 2,300 feet per second, while the Ballet D that preceded it by a few years pushed 198 grain projectile at 2,400 feet per second. So it's not a barn burner by modern standards, but it's every bit the father of every modern centerfire rifle cartridge we know and use today.